Now live from Studio 550, it's McGraw in the Morning on the Big 550 KTRS.
Casey Joyce is with us. Say hi, Casey.
Good morning.
Along with Scott Sherman, Scott, you're filling in for Martin Kilcoyne today.
He doesn't know it, but yes.
Well, he's not here. He's on vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're filling in solo. Among your guests today?
Going to have Elizabeth Imus, the author, comedian.
The I-Woman.
The I-Woman. She's written a book. She has written a book.
What's her book?
It's called Etiquette for Idiots. It takes all kinds of what you would consider to be, I guess, situations where you're supposed to behave yourself, and she flips it on its ear and says, you know what? The hell with it. This is really ridiculous behavior, so this is how you're supposed to act.
You mean
That's
like...
supposed to be
Give us an example.
Yeah, give us an example.
All right, you come to a dinner party, right?
Mm-hmm.
She says, well, if I, Elizabeth, cooked and cleaned for 3 hours and prepped this, the least you could do is iron your shirt. Which
I don't
means
care what my guests wear.
Well,
Really? That's her deal?
well, that's one of them.
That's one of them.
Yeah. What, do you want another one?
Yeah, give me
Yeah.
another one.
I didn't read enough of the book. I had a couple hours.
All right,
That's the headline.
So are you going to ask her about her famous father?
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Part of it is about her famous father, but it's really, I guess it. You would consider.
Who is a definition of a curmudgeon? I wonder what
You got my
Don
daughter?
Imus.
What?
Well, I wonder what Don Imus was as a father.
That's what we're gonna find out.
Right. Because
But-
he had a huge drug problem, I guess, when she was growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But growing up famous, but also just the idea of political correctness and social correctness. It's all ridiculous. So she's very laid back and down to earth.
I just wanted the
Comedic
record.
chick. She's
I
got
l-
some very cool comedy stories about working in the Groundlings and in the improv. She had some very famous people she worked
I
with.
love Don Imus. I think Don Imus is a genius.
I
I think Imus is.
think you're an idiot.
I think when I get fired from here and I go to a different market, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to steal Frank Opinion show,
Yes, you've said that.
and I'm going to steal as much of Don Imus' show.
Absolutely. And you're a New York guy, so you really were there when Imus was on all the time before he blew up and went national. He was on
Yes, but
NBC.
what's funny is when I was in high school,
Yeah.
we had the Chevy Malibu.
Okay.
Okay, which the back windows didn't open. There were some safety windows, but I can tell you that story some other time. And it was an AM radio only. And so when I got my driver's license, we would go to like Burger King for lunch. And nobody wanted me to drive because I had the AM radio, and I had to listen to that stupid AM radio. And who's this guy talking? Do you know who the guy was talking who they didn't want to listen to?
Don Imus?
Howard Stern.
Howard Stern, the other.
Right, yeah. Who's
So
this?
that Malibu shaped your career.
Well, the Malibu did more than shape my career. The Malibu is a pretty interesting
And it's
car.
a PG-13 program.
The Malibu is a rockin'.
So here's a
McGraw's in there by himself.
here is a true story.
Yes.
So my mother worked every day, and so she came in one day. I'm a senior, I think, and so she comes into to my room and says, "Do not drive the car to lunch today. Whatever you do not drive the." I'm like, "Fine." And she just drills me. Do not drive the car to lunch today. Drive the car to school, and then drive the car home. Do not take the car to lunch today. Okay, fine. So lunchtime comes. Kevin Cade, my best friend, says, "Hey, let's go to Burger King." I was like, "No, I can't." He's like, "Why not?" He's like, "Do you have the Malibu?" I was like, "I got the Malibu," but I told my mother I wasn't going to drive. He says, "How is she ever going to find out?" Good thinking. Let's go. So we go, and as we're driving the car, we see Carrie Mayer, who turns out to be Cager's niece, long story short. So she sits in the back. Kevin and I sit in the front. So we go to Burger King. We have a nice time. On the way back, we stop at a stop sign. Not the back window, which can't go up or down, right? But remember those side windows that would fold out, right?
Yes.
Well, so she opens it up, and it falls out down onto the ground and breaks. So I'm driving. You stop at a stop sign. You hear this. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I just opened the window and it broke." It's like, oh boy. Okay, so we go back to work. Go back to school. That day we had a baseball game. She never went to any of my baseball games. This is the one game she goes to. I'm sitting on the bench. She comes up to me. She's like, "What happened to the car?" I'm like, "Oh man." She thought I was like making out in the back seat and like put my foot through the window.
And then you optioned the story, and it became Ferris Bueller's Day
The
Off.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So
Is
there
that
you
what
go.
this is?
No. But anyway, that was the story of the Malibu.
Well, it's
How,
good
we've
stuff,
gone a
but
long way from going to Imus.
No, but it shows that you were committed to the format of talk radio back when you were a youngling.
It goes to show you that Kevin Cade was the negative influence in my life.
Or so you tell it now.
There's another great story.
Is there any story in the Malibu that we cannot tell?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure there are stories in the Malibu we can't tell. But this is the all-time greatest Kevin Cade story.
Yes.
This is the best. This guy was such
So
a
you're going to throw him
troublemaker.
under the bus right now?
Totally under the bus.
Okay.
I hadn't seen him for
Sorry, Kevin.
years, and I saw him like 5 years ago, and it was like we didn't miss a beat. Right? He was just one of those friends. So, it's Friday night. I'm going over to Kevin Cade's house. Mother says, "You're not going. You over my dead body, or are you going to Kevin? Why not? We're going to go to the movies. No. You're not going. You're not going. You're not going. Big fight. I leave the house. I'm going to Kevin's. You're not going to stop me." So I get up and I start walking, and I'm like, okay, I can't go to Kevin Cade's because she's going to follow me. So I double back and go to my other friend Jimbo's house. So the next day, 2 days later, my mother turns to me. She's like, "I don't like that Kevin Cade." I was like, "Well, why not?" I mean, he's the best friend. Has been over the house, and families are friendly, the whole deal. "You don't like Kevin Cade?" She's like, I don't like that Kevin Cade. There's something about that kid I don't like." Oh, okay, whatever. So I get to school the next day, and Kevin says, "I got to tell you the story." I said, "What?" He says, "Remember Friday when you didn't come over to the house?" "Yes." "So your mother drives the car over to my house, and she sees me and Michael DePhillips driving down the street. So she sees us, and she starts to follow us. So I turn to Michael DePhillips, and I say, 'Michael, you want to play a joke?' And he goes, 'Sure.' He says, 'Put your head down.' So he puts his head down, and Kevin Cade takes off. So now my mother thinks I'm in the car with Kevin Cade, and so they're driving all around town, blowing off stop signs, trying to shake my mother. She finally they pull over. She gets out of the car. She's caught me dead to rights. She goes up to the side window, and she's like, 'Aha!' And Michael DePhillips puts his head up and says, 'Hello, Mrs. Milhaven. How are you doing?'"
You punks. Your poor mother.
But wait a second. As good a baseball player as you were, and we kid you a little bit about it, but you were good enough to get into college and play baseball on a scholarship. How come
At
your
University of
mom,
Nebraska?
Yes.
that doesn't. But why didn't your mom go to more games?
Well, she had to
She
work.
was working.
She was working. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, so she didn't have it out for you.
No.
She wanted to
Well,
go.
she did have it out for me, but she was working. So, it's your games after school. You don't.
Did it bug you at all that she didn't get to go
No.
to as many games?
No.
So is this a psychology?
Yes.
Your mother issues?
We're gonna
I got
talk
mother. I got. You have no idea.
Hey, if we can talk about Imus as a dad, we can talk about
Yeah.
Delve
as a
into
great
Anyway,
mom.
that was a long story to go to. You're gonna have Don Imus's daughter on the show today.
Later.
All right. Now, what's the deal with this Bradley Manning
All right, good question. I don't know.
Or
Weird?
Chelsea.
or Chelsea Manning?
Okay. Let me be clear. If someone has a legitimate and heartfelt feeling that they belong in another gender, I support that belief and that feeling because it's got to be very difficult to live.
Maybe you
in
just
a
have to go to the
long family.
bathroom.
Maybe so.
I mean, what does that feel like to want to be the opposite
I
sex?
have no idea.
What a feeling
It's
that
got
must
to be really hard, never feeling like you fully belong with the guys because you feel more akin to the girls. I mean, that's got to be a really hard life growing up.
And I believe that there are people, and Chaz Bono is one of them, that are actually born the wrong way.
Yeah.
That they really are not the gender. There's only two genders, as far as I know, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm no scientist, but there's only man and woman, so male and female. So you could be born actually and feel that you don't belong to that one. So Manning may well feel this way, but this is not the poster child, boy, woman for the transgender community. This guy is a jerk. Now, some people may be out there and say, well, he's a whistleblower. Well, I don't think so. He's going away for 35 years. And I think that this is the wrong time and the wrong forum to be advocating for the transgender community. Now, legally, it's very difficult for these people to get recognized outside of the way they were born. Birth certificates are what they are. They're legal documents. And when the state stamps you as a boy or a girl, that is pretty much the way you are, unless, and in a majority of states, you have a sex change operation where you are anatomically changed from the gender you were born into the gender that you feel more comfortable with. So there are 29 states which will alter a birth certificate, but only post-operative sex change.
So you have to go in and show them.
You gotta say, all right, let's see.
Whose job is that?
That's the governor's job. So
That's
Jay Nixon,
insane.
congratulations.
All right, let me see it. Boy, all right, let me change it around.
It's one of the things they don't tell you.
Oh my God.
Then Rick Perry has an ad and makes fun of you. But there are 5 states that even if you get the sex change, including our neighbor Kansas, Oklahoma's not far, Tennessee, a couple others, where it doesn't matter what you do, they're not changing the birth certificate. So you could theoretically have the sex change be of the different parts, and that state that you live in will not change your birth certificate.
But listen to this.
Yes.
So you're born a man in Oklahoma, or let's say you're born a man in Oklahoma.
Yes.
Okay. You have a sex change operation to become a woman, but you're still, in the eyes of the state, a man.
That's right.
But you're acting and have all the parts of a woman. So legally, as a sex-changed woman in Oklahoma, you can legally marry another woman.
Yeah, I guess, yes.
So
yes.
if you want to marry the same sex in Oklahoma, one of them has to change sexes.
That is true.
So think about that for a second.
And this is one of those, the law is so far behind the science and sort of the society on this. I mean, we just got gay marriage up to the Supreme Court for the first time. Transgender stuff, it's not coming anytime soon.
How come gay marriage is banned, but I can change my sex? How come that's not banned? How come no one's making a push to ban that?
Because it's so fringe that it's not on anybody's radar screen. There's not really a sort of activist community.
Well, people are doing it.
There's a few. But there are 16 states right now, and maybe there'll be more, where you don't have to have the sex change in order to get your birth certificate changed. So that's pretty cool, and most of those states are the ones you would think. Oregon,
Those liberal
Washington,
places.
those liberal places.
So is he from one of those places?
Well, was born sort of, what was he, born in
He was born in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's
but
not going to
what's
help.
weird is there's federal jurisdiction because this is not a state case. He was a property of the United States Army.
Right.
And you are, when you're enlisted or inducted into the Army, you remain a resident of the state that you started from. But this is federal jurisdiction. The feds don't really have any rules about this at all. So essentially what they're going to have is this. They're going to say, no. What's his name? Amanda?
Chelsea.
Chelsea. I'm sure the Clintons are thrilled about that. But no, Chelsea, you're not going to a girl prison. You're not a woman. You're Bradley Manning. And
They showed
So
pictures.
wouldn't he be pumped about that? I mean,
you would think, but isn't you? Well, not yet. No, you would think.
I
don't.
myself.
Casey,
Excited.
you're the
I'm
class of this
sorry.
operation. Come
Whistleblower
on.
Sorry.
pump. This show is filthy.
I mean, excited.
You would think
Anyway.
that the man would be looking forward to essentially going to a nightclub, but no, I think it's for him. It's a misplaced sort of, I guess, sociological study.
Has he started taking
diversion.
like hormone?
No, he's asking now to.
But
for
he
the
hasn't
government.
started. He's not
No.
in the process.
Correct.
No,
Okay.
he's not. Oh, by the way, he got 35 years in prison for leaking classified documents to WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On to
that
the other
might be a
thing.
bit of a diversion, but
All right, that's Scott Sherman.
there you go. So all of you thinking about it, be careful. But you do in Missouri and in Illinois
But
have
in
to
Kansas,
get the sex change.
But in Kansas,
You get it? Too bad.
you get it, but you're still the same sex you
still
were
the-
born.
they
So
won't-
you could marry a same-sex person if you have a sex change operation.
Yes.
So, and technically, in some of those states, same-sex marriage is legal.
So they are endorsing transgenderism, but not same-sex marriage.
Correct. All right. R&R Sanitation Porta Potties. Let's go from. 9:40 here at Big 550 KTR. Scott Sherman is with us, along with Casey Joyce. And you, a couple weeks ago, you talked about this newfangled thing with this DUI thing. Where some quirk in the law that says that you can actually get your DWI taken off of your record.
It's called justice. Somewhere out there, there's some. If anyone has had one and their first time DWI, and it's not a felony DWI, and they don't have a truck license, one of those licenses, CDL licenses, you can get it expunged, even if you were convicted. I mean, not just closed file where it's not a conviction, but expunge the arrest, the fingerprints, the mugshot, as though it never happened. Not only that it happened, but whether you went through probation and were successful, went through probation and were revoked, or were convicted, it comes off.
How?
That's the statute. It's the expungement statute in Missouri. Illinois has a similar expungement statute, and it's even more expansive. It goes to other kinds of misdemeanor crimes. But in Missouri, it's specifically targeted for people that got involved with their one and only DWI.
So you're saying that somebody gets arrested for driving under the influence.
Yes.
And 5 years later, they're filling out a form, and it says, have you ever been convicted of a crime or ever been arrested? You have to say, yes, DUI 5 years ago.
Yes.
Now, 15 years after my DUI, I'm filling out a form. I go and I get this expunged from the courts. I'm filling out the same thing. It says, have you ever been arrested? I can legally say, no, I've never been arrested.
That is absolutely true. But you can't do it unless you file the expungement. And the expungement is the word shall, which is really a beautiful thing in the law because it means must. So the statute is written that the court must expunge the record if the person fits all the other qualifications.
After how much time?
10 years from the date of the incident, not even 10 years from the date of the disposition of the case or the end of the case. So for people that get put on 2 years probation in these little municipality courts, or maybe they could put on 3 years probation in a state court, they make it through, they're successful, or they don't make it through and they're not successful, or they have a jury trial and they're convicted. The 10-year period from the time of the stop, from the time of the arrest, you are eligible for your expungement, so long as you don't have a CDL license, you did not get another one, and it was your first offense.
So your first offense, your one and only mistake.
That's right.
The state of Missouri gives you a pass if you're clean for 10 years.
That is absolutely true.
But that said, it still affects you, jobs, trying to get back on your feet for that 10 years.
Right.
It can. I mean, a lot of people most people, the vast majority of people who get their first DWI, get put on probation, and they make it through their probation, and they don't get the conviction. But their driving record, they're still suspended almost in every case. Mm-hmm. Still suspended. That suspension, that alcohol administrative suspension, will stay on your record and follow you around like bad sushi unless you get the expungement. So if you check somebody's driving record and they had a DWI 15 years ago and it was closed, they made the probation, their driving record will still show alcohol administrative suspension, and everybody, wink, nod, knows what that means. Oh, you got a DWI.
What about insurance rates? What about your insurance deal?
Yeah, same thing. Insurance companies will periodically look, especially if you're switching companies, will look and see what your driving record looks like, and they will look and say, oh, alcohol administrative suspension in 2001, that means you got a DWI. You're a higher risk. If you get the expungement, it's not there. It's taken off. The Department of Revenue is ordered by the court to take that off as though it never happened.
Now, you found this is little known. No one really knows about this, and you found this kind of by accident.
Well, I have smart people that I hang out with, which is really one of my most beneficial qualities. And I have two lawyer friends, one who used to be the head of the Department of Revenue office in St. Louis County, and one who's one of the best DWI lawyers in the entire state of Missouri, and they found it. And then they told me about it, and they said, hey, would you be interested in maybe going into a little venture with us? And by the way, mention it to McGraw, and if he's interested, would you talk about it? And people are excited about it.
So are a lot of people doing this now?
Yeah, I think people don't know about it because it's relatively obscure, and for some reason or another, lawyers don't talk about it. It's not something that they talk about with their clients.
Where the lawyer will say, hey, if you get a DUI, call me.
Well,
But they don't say, hey, 10 years from now, stay on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, or they'll say this, and they say this a lot. You won't get any points. You won't get a conviction. But what they don't tell you is, how do you do that? Well, you have to plead guilty, and it hangs over your head for 2 years or 3 years or however long. You have to go to all these classes, and you have to do all this stuff. It's basically a plea agreement. That's most of what these DWI places do with people, that they say, "Oh, you're not going to get a conviction." Well, that's how you do it. You either get acquitted or you plea and take the deal. This is different. This is after all of that stuff is resolved, whether you were convicted or not. 10 years later, one time, boom, comes off.
I'm going to get a lot of phone calls. They can call you on this, right? If anybody has a question.
I have the perfect number. If we do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
314-631-0200. 631.
Sounds like there's too many numbers there.
Why is that the
Why is it the perfect number?
That's the number.
I thought the
I
perfect
thought it was
number
going to be
was
clever, like 314,
yeah.
like no DUI.
Yeah, clean DUI.
All right,
Yeah.
you call that one too, and then have them call that other one.
What's the number?
631-0200.
631-0200.
Yeah.
I thought. All right.
What?
Go ahead.
We'll get a new number. Well, I'll come up with a
No,
different
that's
number.
Yeah,
that's
come up with something clever.
Come up with a
And
way
get
better
a
number.
Cool
That's
website.
That's a terrible number.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassing number. I mean, it really.
If you're gonna bill it as the perfect number, you have to really deliver.
Yeah, and it really is. It looks poorly on their practice with that poor.
I'll
number.
blame them for that.
While we have just a minute before we have to move on here, I got a ticket down by the lake.
Oh,
I was
What
speeding.
lake?
I was headed to the Lake of the Ozarks.
it's
Okay.
in
And
Callaway County.
I got a speeding ticket, and the guy shot me from above in a radar on a plane. And the guy came
They
over.
still do that?
Yeah, old
How
school.
does Missouri have the money to do that?
Because they
Because they're ticketing you.
ticketing me. So the guy was nice enough, gave me a ticket, whatever. So I was talking to a lawyer friend of mine, not Scott Sherman, and the lawyer friend of mine says, "Hey, give me the ticket." I was like, well, what are you going to do? He says, just give me the ticket. I was like, okay, fine. So I gave him the ticket. So like 2 weeks later, I was like, am I supposed to do anything with that ticket? He says, no, look. He's like, forget about it. I'll handle it. And in 6 months, I'll call you and I'll tell you what to do. What is that guy going to do with the ticket?
He's going to go to the prosecutor's office. He's going to ask the prosecutor to give him what's called a recommendation, which means they want to trade something so you don't get the points. Now, it depends on what county this is in. The worst county in the state of Missouri for this kind of stuff is Callaway County, which is supposed to be the county of freedom, because that's where Winston Churchill gave that speech.
And Fulton, yeah.
Fulton. Yeah, they're horrible people. They're the worst. It's evil. It's better than it was. Evil place, because they won't do anything, not for anyone. But
Well, that doesn't sound evil. That sounds right.
no, it's not.
I have a
because it's-
speeding ticket on my record. I grew up in Nebraska. Have a speeding ticket on my record there from when I was like 17. Still on my record.
See, now we
wouldn't
get an
touch it.
expungement for you.
Great. Can we
But
talk?
in 99% of cases on a generalized speeding ticket, they will trade the points that are assessed when someone is convicted of a moving violation for a no-point violation, and i.e. more money. So the big trade-off, and that's why Missouri is so rich in small municipal courts that have all kinds of fancy stuff, is because these cops are out writing tickets. I'm sure they're all legitimate tickets, by the way. And the prosecutor's office, the courts will trade. Hey, you pay us a little bit more,
So it's
we'll-
$100. You pay us $150.
Yeah,
and we will you will plead guilty on a noise violation.
Yeah. Now, if this is your friend, your great lawyer friend, thank you for not asking me, because I don't have the juice to pull this kind of action.
No,
off.
this is a highfalutin lawyer.
Absolutely. So this person would go to the prosecutor and say, hey, look, this is a very good friend of mine. This was an injustice. We don't want to have to try this case and bring your police officer in. I don't think there's ever been any kind of trial like
so
that.
ridiculous.
And they'll probably throw it out. So basically,
throw it out and or
don't-
charge me with something.
yes, don't ever, folks, don't never, ever just pay a ticket. It's not the way to do things.
so
Your
ridiculous.
insurance goes, ping.
All right, that's Scott Sherman. Casey Joyce is with us. Scott Sherman, who's your sponsor?
St. Louis Home Retention Group. Now, they have a much better number than that other
They
place.
really have a perfect number.
And the reason for that is this is so incredibly important. I was hearing this morning, you were talking to Scott Crothers about the way the markets were going, and he mentioned Bank of America and how they might not need bank or government bailout money and their stocks rising. Here's why. They're dumping a lot of their, quote, bad mortgages. Well, we got stuck in a very bad place in the late 2000s with the home mortgage debacle, and a lot of mortgage companies like Bank of America or Countrywide, which is the one I had, were selling bad loans and people were defaulting on them because they didn't do the right and proper procedures. Well, what do we have left? The banks got bailouts. Bank of America's stock's going up. Now they're dumping all of these mortgages. We got federal programs. Save people's houses, keep their kids in school, save people's lives. The people that know how to do that, the local guys, St. Louis Home Retention Group. They've helped me. They've helped countless others. Over 500 positive results just in the last couple of years. They know what they're doing. 90% plus success rate. If you're having any issues with your house, you just want to check out and see if you can do better, call them at the best number, 636-527-5121, 636-527-5121, or St. Louis Home Retention Group.com.